Welcome to Young and Finch, the podcast created by Korean millennials. And this one is for the boys.
All right. This week is a little bit more relaxed and more casual. Hopefully it's fun.
I feel like we've been neglecting a lot of the male audience that we have, so we just want to, focus on we'll do it one time for the boys. Focus on the male audience for this one. I hope you guys can relate to some of the things that we talk about. And even if you're a female and still listening to this, maybe, you can still take something away from it.
Yeah, for sure. I think majority of our audience is actually female.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, again, we love that. And we love that you guys are interested. But, thought we'd discuss things that might be more relatable with the homies.
With the bros.
Yeah.
So, how do you define what a man is, and has it changed over the years?
Wow.
What do you guys think? Like, what is the definition of a man?
I think what's interesting is, I think maybe we should be looking at it as, what does it mean to be a Korean man?
Okay.
Being a Korean man has definitely a unique perspective in that Korea, I think generally is a pretty male favored country. So growing up as a man in Korea, I think you see things a little differently.
What do you mean by that?
Well, the roles of Korea is still pretty traditional, so there's still some of those traditional gender norms and roles and conventions, as well as in terms of professional roles and entertainment. The idea of the man is still, I think looked up upon. But aside from that, I think being a Korean man,
that concept could be applied to Western countries too.
Of course.
I would almost say that Korea's values and culture stem from the Korean War and is influenced by the American society.
Yeah.
I think I touched upon this on previous podcasts, but I agree to what Josh said, right? It's, I guess, I want to say preferable to be a man nowadays, but I guess back in, the early 20th century, post-war, when we're going in the whole revolution of industrial revolution, there are more labor-intensive jobs that kind of cater towards, men being, more preferable.
Yeah.
I don't want to say preferable because such a demeaning word to,
Yeah.
the other party, but you know what I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I guess, what does being a Korean man mean to you guys living in a Western society, right? What does that entail?
I think, and I talked about this in previous podcasts, but it has changed a lot over the past few years.
Definitely.
Especially what it means to be a Korean young adult, right?
Yeah.
With all the uprising of K-pop, K-dramas, and just K-entertainment. A buddy of mine just mentioned that BTS won a Grammy for one of their songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
So all these perceptions of Korean men are kind of indirectly, I guess directly, put onto us. We gotta be Korean men. Yeah, Korean men are known to take care of themselves, right? Whether it be exercising regularly, or wearing nice clothes,
successful in their jobs,
hardworking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that, I think, has a negative connotations at the same time because not everyone's like that.
It builds up an expectation.
Right. But for me, as a Korean man in the Western society, I look at it in a glass half full perspective where these connotations are, these expected connotations are good for Koreans because it gives them a positive image to the public.
Mm-hmm.
So what I try to do is, fit that standard of norms and kind of kind of make that make that an influence for me to kind of follow and be the best that I could be. So, and also respecting where I came from, like saying that I'm Korean, just stuff like that.
Yeah,
I agree. I think you could definitely use it as motivation.
Yeah.
I think that's a good way to put it. For me, it's a very different topic because I think for us at our age right now, we're more focused on just ourselves. You know, we do everything purely based on selfish reasons as of now. But later on, when you get married and have kids, you have a different set of responsibilities. You got to take care of your family. You got to take care of your, kids. So I feel like with that in mind, we don't really know 100% of what it feels like to be a man.
But you're a man.
You're not calling me a man?
So
we're a man, but the responsibility that comes with being a man is different.
But we're men right now. What responsibilities do we have? Because we do have responsibilities as men.
I think for me personally, being a man is being able to take care of your loved ones.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it comes down to. And right now, since we are only taking care of only ourselves, purely out of our own selfish reasons, like we want to make more money, we want to advance in our jobs and things like that. But I guess you could use, that as motivation too, to have a better future,
right?
And things like that. But
so then, how does being a Korean man affect that or change that, or does that even matter?
The thing is, I don't know what the difference of being Korean man and like a Western man is. Like the one thing that I like about living in Canada is that we have so much freedom to do anything and pursue anything we want.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and I feel like
we have freedom like we're in Itaewon.
What? like let's say if you were in in Korea, like the norm is to get a job, and I feel like you're just kind of stuck in this like a hamster wheel kind of thing. But here you have so much freedom to pursue what you want without the the society's expectation and things like that.
But doesn't that still carry over as a Korean person? Like your family, your friends, the societal values that we have from our Korean community carries out, like that carries through. We still have that expectation to create it.
The pressure is not as much.
Yeah.
The pressure is not as much because, I don't know, we live in such a diversified country.
Yeah.
It's like no one really cares if you're, making $20,000 here or $30,000 there. But if you're in Korea making $20,000, like you might be viewed as less because their moral is completely different over there.
But how does you being Korean in a Western society define who you are? Or does that not matter to you?
I don't think it matters much for me because I think whether if you're Korean or if you grew up in Western culture or if you're Italian, Chinese, at the end of the day, I think our core fundamentals are all the same. Like we want to take care of our family, we want to have a loving household, and things like that. So, I don't know. I don't really see much difference in terms of those kind of aspects.
That's fair.
Yeah.
How about you, Josh?
I think as a Korean man in a Western society, we're dealing with not only the pressures that we get from our Korean upbringing and communities and society. Not only are we pressured by those values, but we're also trying to combat and keep up with the Western society. I think East Asian men, and I'm not trying to victimize ourselves, but factually speaking, East Asian men, there are still a lot of stigma and negative connotations to that. And we're still looked down upon by a lot of people of different backgrounds, right? But I think that that's another obstacle that we have to climb as we're growing up in Canada, even as a Korean person, right? And I think as a man, like Brian mentioned, we have responsibilities. There are things that we have to carry for our family, for friends, just as a sole provider sometimes, as a joint provider with family. But I think that as a Korean man, it's important to figure out a way to navigate through the landscape, like mentally and like socially even, right? How to navigate through the complications and the nuances between the Korean aspects of our lives as well as the Western aspects, right? And I think that comes from like different parts, like maybe with your friendships, you're kind of dealing with both Korean and non-Korean people. But professionally, you're most likely dealing with a nice mix of people because, Canada does have a lot of diversity. And I think that that's a lot of different pressures and a lot of different things to overcome.
Yeah. And I would also argue that it's gotten a lot better over past few years because
100%.
everything is being globalized, right?
Yeah.
And everything's being diversified. You see like a lot of mixed races now.
Yeah, 100%.
So I feel like as years go on, it will be a lot more easier for, someone that's not like per se Canadian to come to Canada and adjust because like you guys said, of the diversity and whatnot.
Yeah.
So I think it's right now is especially important to uphold the Korean values and cultures as a Korean living in the Western North America and whatnot. So yeah like when I was young, right, and I don't know about you guys, but I was kind of embarrassed to show, like, for instance, my lunches would be different from all the other kids, right?
And it smells like kimchi.
Yeah. And they'd be like, oh, yo, what is that? And then you have to explain.
Yo, someone fart?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's like, you're kind of embarrassed, and like, it's because they're not accustomed to seeing what Korean food is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or like talking to your parents in like a white people surrounding.
Right.
It's like they're gonna look at you funny because it's not English.
Yeah.
But again, I think now I don't really care. I think speaking Korean is an asset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And what I said in the beginning of how K-pop and K-entertainment kind of popped off. It's kind of cool to see now where it's like, oh, are you Korean? And then they just base it based off of what language you were speaking or like the type of hair you have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we come a long
way. I think
in
Asians in general are becoming more like in a way powerful all across the world. I think the world used to be dominated by usually like Western people, like white people, but nowadays we have all these big companies like Alibaba, Samsung, and all these like Asian brands that are being recognized and respected. So, and especially with social media and the internet, like I think more people are being aware of this like Asian uprising. So I think it's definitely like a better place to just kind of keep your head up and be proud that you're Asian.
Yeah,
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, on the note of Korean dramas and Korean media kind of highlighting Korean men, I would say it's safe to say K-pop and Korean dramas harbors a certain ideal in terms of what the ideal attractive Korean man is, right? And and there are these kinds of traits that Korean dramas and K-pop
portray.
It portrays. Yeah. Contrastly, there's the Western values of attraction and what makes a man and what makes a man masculine and what makes a man desirable. And I think that there's a lot of things that conflict. There's a lot of things that don't kind of see eye to eye in terms of the Korean ideals and Western ideals.
Yeah.
So with that, what do you guys like? How do you guys feel about these portrayals of men's attraction, whether it's from the Korean media or from the Western media? And, like, how does that affect how you see yourself or other guys around you, right?
Okay, so for Korean media, like, feel free to, like, join in if you guys have anything to say, but...
Hey, no, sorry.
Like, Korean
You're wrong.
people are, like, the ideal Korean man is they have to be tall.
Yeah.
They have to be skinny.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say skinny. I would say slim.
Like slim.
Yeah.
Yeah, slim.
Slim thick.
What else?
They have to have pale skin.
Pale skin. Yeah, pale skin.
They have to have good proportions.
Good proportions.
Dress well.
Dress well.
Good job. Financially stable.
Yeah. Financially is, I think, a good one. That's really romanticized.
Whereas, Western culture, they prefer bigger guys.
Muscular, definitely.
Like muscular
Yeah,
guys.
muscular, beards, tattoos.
More charismatic, like outspoken,
Yeah, like
louder.
social.
I think.
If you watch those YouTube videos where non-Korean girls tell the difference between like Western masculinity and Korean masculinity, a lot of them say that Korean people Korean guys are a lot more caring and they're more sensitive.
Yeah.
And that
I can see that.
I think that attributes to masculinity. It's like the way we see sensitivity is different from like how the Western society thinks, right?
Yeah.
Like for instance, opening the door, setting up the plates and fork and like spoon and whatnot.
Yeah.
I do those things. Right?
Is that just like
kinda,
basic?
Yeah,
basic
no,
manner?
but there's a lot of people that don't do that.
Right.
Yeah.
That could just be a Korean,
Like especially in the
mindset.
Western society.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't think. I mean, doors maybe, but like the plates and cutlery and like pouring water for them when they're running low is like the very little things that Korean people pay attention to.
It's like a
I think.
cultural difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there is a strong discrepancy, I think, or difference in terms of like how Koreans see masculinity and attractiveness. Like, have you guys felt less masculine or less attractive as a male in Canada as a Korean?
Not so much these days. I kind of cater my not personality, but how I treat other people, especially girls, in more of a Korean fashion.
Yeah.
Right. And again, in terms of like my fashion and my type of ideal type of body is more towards the Korean aspect. I think Brian and I had this conversation where he thinks I'm too skinny, but I always say like that's what Korean girls want, right? And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
But I think when I was younger, especially like playing hockey, I was like kind of skinny, or anything sports related, I would get pushed or like get injured. I had a kind of a trouble then because I wasn't very athletic per se. I was athletic. I didn't have the right genes because I had
smaller stature too.
Yeah, like thin bone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, nowadays I think it's almost a plus because I could show people like things they can't do. Like I could cuff my ankles with one hand, which is a pretty cool skill.
Yeah.
Damn, but really? You're skinny as hell.
That's so sexy. Holy shit.
I don't know, like some people, like I got compliments on my ankles a lot, and I show them like this trick, and they're like, "Oh," I'm like, "Yeah, bitch."
I think that's another thing. It's like, yeah, definitely the standard, the beauty standard is different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wait, what was the question again?
Just masculinity.
Well, like do you feel like, have you ever felt like maybe like, have you ever questioned or maybe was a little more insecure about how you feel as a Korean man or as a man in general, just based on these differences in beauty standards?
I think this is very hard because we all live in Canada.
Yeah.
And
Canada.
And I feel like Asians are not as viewed attractively to Western girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
and because of that, like you can that can kind of make you feel insecure. I mean, that's what I did in the beginning, but now I realize that there is a difference in terms of like what their preference is and what our preference is. So I can kind of understand why.
Mm-hmm.
But if you certainly meet Western girls, I feel like you're already starting at a disadvantage because their perception of Asian men are already so different from what they have for Western guys.
Like in
Right.
what sense?
We just talked about it. Like they want like bigger guys, like more muscular, like
Bigger
more
guys.
manly.
Like the Western ideals of masculinity.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I mean, I've dated like Western girls, so I mean that proved my point wrong. It's like you're starting at a disadvantage, but it's how you just kind of maneuver through that, and like present yourself is actually what matters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think like that is a handicap for us, at least for now, right? It sets us back, like you said.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not that we're not masculine. We're just, the standards of masculinity and what it means to be a man in Korea is just a little different.
Yeah.
I think Western media does portray, and still does, portray East Asian men as being smaller, timid, not confident, and traits that aren't masculine, right? We're the accountants or something in a show, or we're the doctors or something, right? It's like we're never. And I with Andrew's point, that's changing. Korean people are playing more dominant roles, more masculine, quote unquote roles, right? Not that we agree to these ideals that are presented by media, but I think to Brian's point, like we're at a disadvantage when it comes to how other people have seen East Asian men, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and this is 100% true, because when I'm at work, and I have like Western patients, like the first impression I get like from them is like they think that I can't speak English. I'm like
oh, that's so ignorant.
Yeah. And then once I like speak up and just have like a normal conversation, that's when they just kind of put their guard down and just have like a normal conversation. But I feel like a lot of them, I don't want to say most, a lot of them think that we're just Asia, like fresh up, like FOB, and we can't really speak English and things like that.
So I think that just goes to my point, that we as Korean men in a Western society have to go through these hurdles. We have to prove ourselves. I think these kinds of things are really embedded into the interactions that we don't think about it anymore, and maybe we're used to it, but it's like we have to prove that, like you said, we're good at English, we're accustomed to Western society, we're competent, these things I think are hurdles that we have to go through, not as Korean men, but as Korean people, right? And I think similar to when it comes to meeting women that are from other backgrounds, we have to, it might not even be true, but we feel like we have to validate ourselves as men, or that we meet a certain criteria of masculinity, I feel like, which I think has been ingrained in us by society, right? And that makes it hard. It's like, then I can't just freely go. It makes me feel like I am limited to who I can interact with and what, kind of relationships I'm able to embark on. And I think that's something that we are breaking through and are making progress as Korean men in society, right? And we need to be,
But I like it. It's fun. It's fun when those people have these, like prejudice and like these expectations of you, and then you just completely like break that.
For sure. And in like another capacity, I think there's a lot of Western women and people that don't have that idea or that perspective, right? But it's more so like we have that perspective upon ourselves, Like I've met so many white women, black women, Indian women, whatever, right? But like they don't view, like they're like, Asian men are sexy. And I'm like, that always kind of catches me off guard, which is a shame. But I'm always kind of like why? Like, what makes them sexy? And they're like, like they're just hot. And I'm like, it just never. It's so fucked up that never came across like naturally, that like women of different backgrounds can think Asian men are just hot. just because. You know what I mean?
It's just hard because there is that population of people that think that we're hot, and then there's also that other population that think that we're like inferior.
Yeah. But we're not. Korean men are sexy.
Yeah, but we're not.
Our greatest enemy is our minds.
Oh. Bars.
But I'm not a rapper.
I'm down.
You know, growing up as a Korean boy / man in North America,
Yeah.
what are some of the... That's a little lighter topic, but what are some of like sports or games that you guys play together with other Korean homies?
Anything made by Nexon.
Crazy Arcade.
Facts.
Crazy Arcade was huge.
Crazy Arcade was big times.
Yeah.
Maple Story was friggin' huge.
Counter-Strike.
Okay, for me, it was StarCraft, Diablo, Crazy Arcade, Maple Story, League.
League was probably the biggest
Yeah.
one, I think, for our generation at least.
Yeah. And then
Really, I would say Maple Story, League, and Sudden Attack.
I don't know. League was kind of like
But League was-
world-changing.
Yeah, League was for everyone. That's the thing.
Yeah.
It wasn't just for Koreans, right? It was for literally everyone.
yeah.
But like I'm saying, like Korean games specifically.
Oh, like Korean produced games?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or like people or Korean people. What Korean people play
Yeah.
would be Maple Story.
StarCraft was
Sudden
huge,
Attack,
I know.
StarCraft.
I never
yeah.
played it, but I know Korean people loved it.
Diablo. A lot of people played.
Yeah.
Sudden Attack. Yeah. And then League, obviously.
It's funny how Korean guys always bonded. Like friendships were always formed kind of from games. You know, you met someone in a game room or like through games, and then you just kind of link up and
games
become
or
homies.
sports.
Like,
I would say sports is one too.
sports is huge too. Yeah, like a lot of Korean guys play soccer,
Yeah. Basketball.
baseball, basketball. Basketball is huge. I don't know, like Korean guys love basketball, man.
Basketball? You just guess you're not a baller, bro.
Ball is
You're not a
life.
baller, fam. Sorry.
Ball is life.
Guess I'm
Easy
not a baller.
Sorry.
You were into skating though, Josh, right? So that's very
Yeah,
different.
I was into the white boy sports. I skated, I snowboarded.
That's cool too. I wish I learned how to skateboard.
I'll teach you how to kickflip.
You know how to do it?
I have this funny story playing Maple Story.
Yeah.
So pretty much like I played Maple Story to flex on other people, not by levels, but by my items. So I used to hustle when I was a kid and like kind of go scam people.
Scam these poor fucking
It's so funny
7-year-olds,
how I
bro.
did it.
Nah.
So to explain it, right? Like let's say I was buying an item for, like, let's say the market value of an item is 10 million mesos,
Which is like the in-game currency or whatever.
which is the in-game currency.
Yeah.
So what I would do is go out and buy it for like, I don't know, some number that's ridiculous. So like 22 million, right? But what I would do is put 21999,999, right? And
Okay.
then I would purposely fill up my inventory so that if the potential case where they do end up trading, it would get voided because I don't have any space in my inventory.
Okay.
So what I would do is if someone's selling something at a market value and I would obviously buy it at an overprice, I would show them money and then trade and cancel right away. So I'm like trying to fish them, right, into accepting it. And I would do that about 2 or 3 times, and then on the 3rd or 4th time, I would, drink a potion to free up my inventory,
Yeah.
and then put one less digit.
Oh.
So that'd be 2.2 million, right? And then I would buy it at like an 80% discount. And then my mule will do that, right? So I have a secondary character, and I would just scam everyone doing that.
man.
Oh my
And then
God.
the kids that I was scamming were like, they weren't very smart. So I would do that.
I mean,
and sell
of
them my
course,
main
they're
account.
fucking 10-year-olds, bro.
Fucking
Yeah,
snake.
but the funny thing is, I would like scam like a 500 million, which was a lot back then.
Holy shit.
Item
500 mil?
and I'll buy it for like 30, like I'll buy it for like 70 mil. So you could kind of see how I would make money off of it. And then later on, when I got to like high school, I sold that account for real money to a friend.
Yeah, it was crazy how many people would actually pay like good money for these accounts.
Yeah.
Like Maple Story, even like League accounts. I remember people would like would pay to boost accounts and shit like that. Like carry me to plat and I'll pay me like $100 or some shit.
Yeah.
And like sometimes I wonder if I like you see all these gaming channels nowadays on YouTube. It's like if I had the courage to show my face or show myself
Yeah.
and play games and like show what I, not the scamming part I guess, but like just how I play and shit. Maybe like I could have made it, but
As like a streamer.
opportunity lost. Yeah.
Hey man,
opportunity lost.
it's never too late now. Download
It's too
download
saturated
Maple
now.
Story.
Start
Download
streaming.
Maple Story 2.
Streaming is the big thing, right? The next big thing.
Yeah. Scamming was like, it was very unethical, but man, so much fun.
Yeah. Bro, that's such like a fucking you thing to do. Holy. Yeah.
It's fun times though.
Yeah. Games. And then like I felt like more like in uni and stuff, like drinking was a huge way to bond with some homies, right? It was always drinking and clubbing. That's where you met all your new friends and all that shit. Korean guys love drinking, man.
Yeah. They love to get rowdy.
Yeah.
But
Soju and some
now that
Somek.
we're old, sorry.
No, but even still, I think that's the thing. Even that's why you'll see like when you go to those Korean bars and stuff, like you'll still see guys that are in their early 20s, and then you'll see a couple guys in like their late 20s. You'll see a couple guys in their 30s. It's like it just doesn't quit, man.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this then.
Mm-hmm.
How do you think you should be acting once you're like a man or whatever? Like, do you have to be like serious all the time, or like what's the ideal like way that you should be behaving? Like what's accepted as the norm and what's not accepted?
I don't know about anything about being accepted or not, but
Yeah.
I think to be a man, not even just being a Korean man or like a white man, black man, whatever, but to be a man, I think you need to be able to lead, able to be supportive and caring. That's it.
No, I think I would agree. It's similar. To be a man means to be... Personally, I don't adhere too much to the stereotypical gender norms. Like, I don't think a man has to be more outspoken, or you have to have, like, the huff and the gruff to be considered a man. I think being a man, you need to be true to your own principles, whatever that means. You know, I think being respectful is super important as a man. Things like that. I think having a good sense of self is important as a man, you know what I mean? And that stems into confidence and leadership, that might be, or being a good listener, right? I think those things kind of carry over, but
True. Yeah.
What about you?
I think doesn't matter how you act. You can act immature, you could act mature, you could act serious, or you could be like a class clown. But as long as you get, the important tasks completed, like, then it's fine. Then it's fine for me, in my opinion.
So if you complete your task, you're a masculine man?
So if you do the dishes, you're a masculine man?
No, like if you're providing like for your family, or like those big tasks in life.
So
like a dong?
Sure.
No, like so you're saying to be a man, you should be providing.
I mean, that's just one aspect. I'm just saying
But,
there's
like,
no
so I don't
right.
understand like the tasks.
Huh?
I'm a little confused at what do you mean by like the tasks?
Okay, like let's say, like providing for your family, like being supportive for your family when they need you, like being that pillar for your family, being the leader. Like let's say, like you have to go to like the dealership, like getting that shit figured out, or like let's say you have to go talk to the insurance company, like getting that, like those real life shit that you have to like do. As long as you do those,
you're a man.
Like you're a man. Like it doesn't matter how you act. It doesn't matter if you're acting like goofy and joking around in front of your family and friends. But as long as you get the important stuff done about life, then I don't see why, that would be a problem.
Interesting.
But I mean, I think women could do all those tasks too, right?
100%.
But that doesn't make them masculine.
Yeah. But I mean, if
I'm just saying, as long as you're you're responsible and you take care of your responsibilities. Like, oh yeah, obviously girls can do all those things, but let's say if you don't do all those things that I mentioned and you're like goofy and joking around, then who's gonna want to be with you?
But if you do those things and you're goofy, you're saying at least you're being responsible.
Yeah, at least you're getting the big stuff out of the day. Yeah, I mean those goofy things. That's just your personality. Like that's just who you are.
Yeah.
And, you can't change that. You should be real and authentic, right?
For sure.
Yeah. I mean, I think this whole question about what it means to be a man is very, like vague, subjective. So,
yeah.
I mean, I laid some points what I thought was to be a man, but
I have a question.
So,
I have a question too, but you go first.
You go
I have a question too.
No.
Okay.
I'll ask it then first. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, as a Korean man
나
growing up
못
in
뭐, sorry.
Canada, right?
Yeah. What? As a Korean man, what?
As a
In
Korean
Canada.
man growing up in Canada or North America,
Yeah.
whatever Western parts you are in,
Yeah.
how did it affect you? Maybe not so much now, but when you were younger, how did it affect you meeting girls? Like,
Wait,
how you have those
can
like
we-
elementary...
Can I ask a question about friends before we cut into girls?
Okay.
Keep that question. But sorry, just because I want to. I think the flow is gonna be a little choppy if I go back to friends after we switch to girls.
Oh, no.
Just hold that, okay? Sorry. So a question I have. It's my turn.
All right, go.
No, but like once you kind of hit your 20s, you kind of have your friends set up, who you're friends with and your homies and stuff like that. But I guess one thing that I think is important, and we've mentioned this previously so many times in different episodes, is having a good support system, right? And that means having a good group of friends around you, friends that want the best for you and are going to be honest and transparent with you, right? And I think, personally, I think you guys are those friends for me. You guys are some of my closest friends.
Aww.
But it's always important to rule out the bad homies. Like Andrew and I, we've had some mutual friends that we've cut out, right? And so my question is, if some of the listeners are dealing with big groups of Korean friends, which is probable. Korean guys like to hang out in clans for some reason, but maybe there's some bad homies. Maybe there's some people that you don't really need in your life, right? And it's important to trim the fat sometimes. What would you like? What's your guys's perspectives on that? Like, what would you say? Balancing relationships like that.
Mm-hmm. So, I think in university, especially, or not even university, everything before you graduate, right?
High school or university?
University.
Okay.
Right? You always want to be a part of something, right?
That's true.
A part of group.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So it's very hard to let go of toxic people. And I was in the same boat too. People that aren't best for you, but are in the same group as you and you are having fun. But in the back of their head, it's like, that something's wrong and something's like not natural.
Yeah.
I think, man, in university, it's gotta be tough to like let go of those people.
So hard.
Yeah, because you want to fit in and belong.
And these are the guys that
But-
you're playing games with, you're playing sports with,
Yeah,
you're drinking with,
exactly.
you're clubbing with. These are your social groups.
Right. And I think to anyone that's listening, there is a point where, you're kind of, when to stop it and when to let go and you realize it and kind of learn from those mistakes.
Yeah.
So I would say, if you are in university and you have, these types of people in your life, just kind of roll with it, because I know it's hard, and like any experience that you go through, you gotta learn something off of it.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is don't force anything, right? Just let it come to you.
Like things will work out eventually.
as time goes, you'll, if you cut out someone or they cut you out, you're gonna learn from it, and you're gonna realize it's for the best, right?
Yeah.
And just kind of, be natural, right? Just don't lie to yourself, and you'll find the right group of people as you go on with your lives. That's
Brian,
I
what
would
about
say.
you?
No, I agree with Andrew. I think when you're in university, at the same time, you don't really realize what those people are impacting you and how they're impacting you. But as you get older and you start working and your perspective just kind of opens up, you realize that those people are not aligned with your, goals and your vision and how you want to like carry out in the world. So I guess you just kind of outgrew that person in a way. And, there's been instances where, some of my previous friends outgrew me, and then they stopped talking to me, and I can see why. Like before my friend was super driven and motivated and do these things. And at the time I was like, I just want to chill, play video games and just relax. So I can see why that friend would want to move on to better things. So I want to ask you guys, like, how do you set that like foundation? Like what is accepted, and like how do you know if that person is good for you? And because everyone has flaws and everyone has imperfections, and there's going to be things that you don't like about like any person that you meet. Like no one's perfect.
Yeah.
So it's like, what is okay and what is not okay?
Right. I mean, if Josh, you have anything to say, I'll let you go first.
I think it's hard because you're not in a friendship. Like friendships aren't there so that you can benefit from it, right? Like fundamentally, friends are people that you connect with and that you enjoy spending time with and value, right? And so some people might argue it shouldn't matter what you get out of that friendship. I think like you can have different goals, you can have different perspectives, but people that are bringing you down, people that are detrimental for your self-development and your mental health, your self-worth, I think those are the people that you need to cut, right? And I think there are like key red flags that you can see in your friends and how they treat other people, which will be good indicators as to whether or not they're good people for you. Like I think one of the things that I recognized early on in some of my other friends that, were no longer tight is, there was a lot of gossiping, right? And I think generally Korean people have a tendency to gossip and talk shit and stuff like that. And as guys, we're always shooting shit. We're always talking shit. That's unavoidable.
Yeah.
But I think when you see your friend talking shit about your mutual friend when he's not there, like stuff like that, I think are pretty big red flags. It's like, well, I thought we were homies, but now you're dissing him behind his back to me.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. And to me, that shows bad character, right?
Yeah.
Things like that.
Yeah. No, I also think trust is a big factor.
Yeah,
I
for
think
sure.
if you lose trust, I had cases where I had like close with, a couple of past friends, and then once they broke my trust foundation, it's like I can't, ever look at them at the same way.
Yeah.
And this isn't like something like, they broke we're supposed to meet on Saturday and they flopped. It's more like, the real like deep shit.
Yeah. Like when they're not there for you when you need them kind of thing.
Or it's like just not being respectful.
Yeah, or not being respectful or doing something behind your back, or not, like clearly communicating what their intentions were, and then they act upon in a different way.
It's like scheming.
You're
it's
you're
so
expecting
childish.
something and then they kind of do something else.
Yeah.
Right. I think trust, if that's broken, I think any type of relationship, right, not just friendship, is really detrimental.
Yeah. Just to add to that, once you hit your mid-20s and stuff like that, like your values change, right? Your perspectives change, what you value changes. And sometimes you still have those homies that are still trying to club 3 times a weekend, and it's like they might be great people, but naturally, if your values are to work on yourself, work on your family, work on providing, then your common interests start to separate, and instances like that are kind of like natural separation. You guys are just at different stages in your life.
Yeah.
And what I hear often is when you get married, you just kind of disconnect with people, your friends that are still single, because you just have different things to focus on. So I think
Nobody get married.
things like that, huh?
So none of us are getting married, okay?
Nah, bro. So we're getting married at the same time. What's good?
Yes, sir.
Triple wedding. I'm down.
I'm
Yeah,
down.
and I think to kind of wrap up what Brian's questions was, right? What Brian's question was in terms of, you know, what we think, why we look in for bad friends per se. I mean, I think you'll know naturally, right?
What a fucking wish-washy answer. I think you'll know,
it's
and
true.
you do you, and I'll do me. And if you're happy, I'm happy.
I mean, the clear signs that we pointed to, like until now, I think you'll know, right? Naturally.
Yeah,
I think,
no, it's true.
I think for me,
you'll know.
it's like I would not burn that bridge unless that person is totally toxic. I would have like different levels of friendship.
Yeah,
Like
for
there's
sure.
like a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. You know what I mean?
Am I tier 3?
You guys are all tier 1,
We're
bro.
tier 1, bro.
Oh, I mean,
come on.
it's our tier
Tier
1. I
one.
meant,
You guys are
I
all
meant
tier 1.
Oh,
So then I would rather invest more of my time in tier 1.
No,
You
for
know,
sure.
I still keep in touch with tier 2, but
For sure,
you know,
for
you're
sure.
like, how are you guys doing? You know, just kind of
For
more
sure.
superficial. And then there's a tier 3,
Yeah.
which is even more superficial.
Yeah.
But, you know,
No, I agree.
Alni
It's-
on my number one homies, bro.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's like, I guess when I said trim some of the fat, I don't mean like being dramatic and being like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore. Like Andrew said, it can be natural. You just let it segue and do its thing, but being intentional about it is what I'm talking about, right? Don't be dramatic.
I mean,
No one likes
you just
queens.
you know, slowly, just kind of drift apart. You know, start contacting less, and
Mm-hmm.
and honestly,
Just
like,
do what it do,
like
baby.
if they, yeah, I would just start by doing that.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, I mean, yeah.
But definitely, friendship
Alright,
is
next.
hard because you have to definitely put in the time. Definitely got to put in the time and commitment. Just with any relationship, though.
No, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Just
I-
with
yeah.
any
Alright,
relationship
so-
that you want to prosper. You know what I'm saying?
Also,
Let's get it.
I'm not
Seriously?
dragging on it.
Well, that's it for season 1, boys. That's 10 episodes.
Man.
How do you guys feel? Can we get a speech from each and one of us?
Yeah, so I think, like Brian said, we're on our 10th episode. Just to reflect upon what we did so far, I would say I got a bit more comfortable speaking into the mic.
Yeah, I think so
Yeah.
too. All of us.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a lot more natural now.
Yeah.
It's more fun, and I hope to keep it going. And just want to thank everyone for listening and staying
Yeah,
in touch with us.
for sure. I didn't think that we
Yeah.
would get to this point so quickly. But
Yeah. Shit.
yeah, it's definitely been a lot of fun, and it's really crazy just being able to talk to people that are actually listening, getting feedback, and we're really excited to keep this going and to hear what more of you want to listen to and hear us talk about. You know,
Dude, I never would have thought that we'd actually get messages saying that, oh, like, we loved your, like, I loved your podcast, like, it's so
Yeah, I
funny
know.
and things like that. I never would have thought that people would actually like listen, and especially the whole thing
Yeah,
at
I
least.
know. Thank you guys so much. All right, guys, you know what to do. Don't forget to hit that follow button, and if you like what we talked about,
Smash that like.
yeah, give us a DM. Follow us on Instagram at The Young and Finch.
Follow us on Spotify.
All the links will be down in the descriptions.
Yeah, and let us know if you have any questions, concerns, or feedback. We appreciate it, all three.
Or if you just want to say hi, we respond to all of our DMs.
Stay safe.
Yes, sir.
Have a great holiday, guys.
Merry Christmas.
And also, Happy New Year's.
Happy New Year's.
Yes.
We'll see you guys in 2021.
Let's get it.
This has been The Young and Finch.
Signing off. Peace.
See ya. Next topic.
Yeah, so...
So as I think you should really value those. Sorry.
Right. Yeah,
So friendships are very
when you
important, but you know.
Oh, no. Can I speak and answer my question, bros?
All right. So sorry.
Go.